because you don't know what you're doing. The good news is sales guys have a sense of humor. All right? So yeah, talk about this. He constrained all the variables immediately for me. He constrained date, scope, and budget before we even so you're a great Scrum team, you're ready to go off and just crush Scrum. I just locked down all the variables for you. Good luck. This is my number one. If I could change one thing at the management level in companies that I visit today, the way they do portfolio planning. This is done in such a traditional way. In most companies, they put every single one of you behind the 8 ball on the first day. It's a miracle to me that any Scrum team delivers when they're put in this environment. This is how you do Agile portfolio management. I'm not going to walk through all the details, but I'm listing 11 strategies that organizations should apply in order to do Agile portfolio management. If you want to read more, this is chapter 16 in my book. What about your partners? Do you force your subcontractors into fixed price, fixed date, fixed scope contracts because legal wants it that way? Good luck. Right, now you've over-constrained them. Oh, by the way, if I ask my partner, my subcontractor, for a bid on a fixed price project, I wonder how much upfront requirements work I'm going to have to do before they're going to be comfortable giving me a bid. Or how about this one? Sad how many companies have this one. What I call protection of the fiefdoms. See, and indeed, brother, right? I'll tell you what happens. I'll give you an example. I'm in London. I'm at a company. This guy calls me in the room. It's like his vice president. It took me like 5 minutes to figure out why we were having a discussion. And I realized the only thing he wanted me to say was, your particular team does not have to adopt Agile. Everybody else does, but you don't. Because he's trying to protect his fiefdom. Because he thought if he went Agile, his people might get reassigned. And at that company, the number of people that report to you, the more prestigious you are. So protection of the fiefdom. And then you got these people go, oh, me too, me too, me too. Again, good luck. Failure to optimize the whole. Everybody's worried about building their individual component. Build the best tires, seats, chassis. I built the world's best hybrid electric engine. I can't fit it into any car we could possibly manufacture, but man, it's a great engine. Who's worried about the whole thing? Where's the big picture model? So there's this failure to optimize at the system level with a focus on optimizing at the individual component level, which almost always sub-optimizes at the system level. Which gets us here. The last of the big three that I keep seeing. They fail to organize their teams in an economically sensible way. So inside that big blue box, right, I was showing all the teams in there, how do you structure your teams at scale to get fast, flexible flow? So let's talk about a couple issues with teaming. First, multitasking is the death of most companies. We'll talk about that for a moment. I want to talk about embracing T-shaped skills, creating and maintaining long-lived teams as opposed to dynamically recomposing new groups all the time, and scaling based on economics, not based on dogma. Think about it. We've already made the argument it's not about keeping people busy. But that's exactly what most companies do. See, some of you on that graph I put on that queuing theory graph might have misinterpreted what I was saying, so let me make sure I'm clear. Here's what I didn't say. I did not say keep your people 80% busy. That's not what I said. I'll tell you what I did say. I don't care in the world how utilized your people are, at all, because it's not the variable I'm trying to optimize. I'm optimizing for fast, flexible flow. What I've noticed is that at the flow point, utilization finds a natural equilibrium. I'm not targeting a utilization level, I'm targeting flow, and I let utilization find its natural. Most organizations are so focused on keeping their people busy, they don't ever get the job done. Don't worry about it. Reduce the multitasking. I mean, this is a graph that kind of illustrates the point. 5 concurrent projects, people are about 30% of the time value adding. They're 100% busy, don't get me wrong. That just means 30% of the time they're actually doing useful project work. The rest of it's eaten up by context switching to get back and forth between all these, or among all these things. We want teams formed from people that have T-shaped skills. T-shaped skills, go with the metaphor. Everybody should be vertically deep in some area. But wouldn't it be, that's whatever your job title is, whatever you were hired to do, that's your vertical specialty. But wouldn't it be nice if people could work outside their core area, meaning they have breadth across other areas. What we're trying to achieve here is the idea that if I staff teams with people that have T-shaped skills, if there's an overabundance of work in a given area, people can swarm over and alleviate the bottleneck. In other words, teams formed out of people with T-shaped skills are more resilient to the variability in the nature of the work that gets presented to the team from sprint to sprint. Hey, this sprint we're going to have a little bit more UI work in the stories, and next sprint we're going to have a little bit more database work. No problem, because we can adapt capacity in those areas because people have T-shaped skills. If you're a math person, it sets up a negative covariance. I offset one variability with another variability, reducing overall variability in the system. This is a very positive characteristic. So I staff my teams with people that have T-shaped skills or people who want to have T-shaped skills. You want your teams to be long-lived. You keep them together. Most companies violate this immediately. At the end of every project, what do? Disband the team, and job well done, they dynamically compose a new group for the next project. The unit of capacity in Agile is the team. That's the high-value asset that organizations create, are these high-performance teams. Why would you blow up a high-performance asset at the end of every project just to go through all the time and effort to create another high-value asset for the next one? I mean, I doubt SEAL Team 6 recomposes itself with any frequency, or the local fire station. These people trust each other. They have each other's back in a hot situation. You start swapping people in and out, you could put safety at risk, right? Think of the equivalent for us. Long-lived is our characteristic. All right, now, to tie it all off today. When the scope gets big and one team is no longer sufficient, how do you scale? You have options. First, scale by discipline. So we have the programmer team, we have the QA team, we have the UI team, the database team. A lot of organizations historically have been structured this way. You might scale based on location. Let's say we needed, we have a New York location and we got a location in Mumbai. Well, I could have people in each geography form a team. So I got a New York team, I got a Mumbai team. Or I could have people that are deliberately distributed across both geographies on each team. There's pros and cons to each, but it's a scaling strategy. You could scale maybe by architectural layer. I got a GUI team, a middle tier team, and a database team. The two I want to talk about here are component versus feature team. And then we'll wrap up our time. Component team. Component team builds a component. They work on a reusable asset area. The idea is, you build it once and you share it many times, reuse it many times. The example I'm giving here, I was doing some work with a GPS company, and one of their teams was the routing team. They had like 8 guys in the company that profoundly understood routing algorithms. So if you wanted to make a change to the GPS that required an update in the routing code, you're not allowed to do it. You have to have that other team make the change for you. That's a component team. Oh, and for our purposes here, a discipline-specific team, like a GUI-only team or a database-only team, for all practical purposes, is semantically identical to a component team. Feature team. This is what Scrum classically talks about. Feature, something of value to the customer. I could show it to a customer, go, what do you think? And they go, love it, when do I get it? I should be able to take those items off the backlog, give it to a team. That team has all the skills necessary to get the job done. Component teams are cross-functional, just like feature teams. The difference is feature teams are cross-functional and cross-component. Okay? Now, stay with me. I'm going to show you a series of slides. If at the end of the slide you sit there and say, I got it, then you truly do got it. Here's an example of a feature. Maybe we're building an inventory management system. So as an inventory manager, I want to remove a product from inventory so that I no longer offer it for sale. Right? If I showed that story to an inventory manager, they'd be like, love it, when do I get it? If I had a feature team, maybe that's feature A, I'd just give it to that team. At the end of the sprint, I'd have the ability to remove products from inventory. Nice and simple. And when they did sprint planning, they would have taken that story, broken it down into a collection of tasks. Right? There's some GUI work, clearly you have to select which product you're going to remove, and then there's probably a remove button, business logic, and some database stuff. Classic Scrum. What if I don't have a feature team? What if instead I had, say, 3 component teams organized at architectural layers? Well, then I would have items like these in the backlog of a component team. Here's what's something that might be in the database team's backlog. As a middle tier programmer, I want an API for removing items from the database so I can complete my business logic. To them, it looks like a feature. To the database team, that looks like a feature. All right, stay with me. I'm going to need to say this twice because it's hard to get on the first pass. That which is a feature to a component team is a task to a feature team. I'll say it one more time as I walk the picture. That which is a feature to a component team. As a middle tier programmer, I want an API for removing items from the database. That looks like a feature to the component team. That same piece of work would have been that task to a feature team. So if that made sense, I can now show you the thing I really want to show you. That was just terminology. We good?
Yep.
All right. So don't scale based on dogma. Current dogma is this. Component teams bad, feature teams good. You can't really believe that that logic applies to all companies across all the different domains and all the types of projects. All right, stay with me. Let's say I don't have a feature team, I only have component teams, 3 component teams, but I do have a feature up in this backlog. If I had a feature team, I'd give that feature to that team. What do I have to do? I have to split the feature along component boundaries and put a piece of the feature into each of those 3 backlogs. Now those 3 teams will each work on their piece during the sprint. They'll do something like a scrum of scrums to collaborate with one another so that by the end of the sprint, I get back a fully reassembled feature, fully reassembled, fully tested. At a scale of 1, no harm, no foul. You're going to solve this problem. Let's make it a bit more interesting. Scale 2. I have 2 products, each of which has features. They span the component areas. Each of these features now has to be split along component boundaries. Problem's a little bit more difficult. You're the product owner of this team right here, component area number 3, product backlog. You have to decide which of those 2 features, should I do this one first, or should I do that one first? You have to do them in the right order, while coordinating with the other component teams that have to do their 2 pieces in the right order. And at the end of the sprint, you have to make sure all those pieces come back together so you get 2 fully reassembled and fully tested items ready to deploy. At a scale of 2, you'll still solve that problem. Let's make it more entertaining. Scale 15. I won't attempt to draw the picture. You wouldn't be able to understand it if we did, right? Here's the issue. Now answer this question. You're the product owner over here. How